Wait, something's not right. Hold on, just a sec. Oh, that's why. Just a second. I realized I broke something. Hold on.
Broke something. That's not good. What?
I just realized I need to like pull the YouTube chat back up correctly because right now
Oh, yes.
it's
Thank
not
you
up.
for
Although
reminding me.
I don't exactly hate the idea of just being able to casually ignore Hatun without consequences.
But where's your Christmas spirit?
And that's not until July. I still have a whole month to not have that. Jesus. Wait, is that not? Wait, did that not work? Hold on. Why isn't that connecting up with?
With?
Hold on. I need to. Okay, hold on. Okay, so I'm live. Have an unstable connection on Twitch for a mysterious reason, but that's fine, I guess.
It'll probably only be there for a little bit.
Okay, why isn't social stream? Hold on, I might have to close this and reopen it.
Okay.
So I just can't see chat right now, and I kind of feel like I want to see chat. Okay, now it's working. So Aeon wants to know if we're a fan of Mech Warrior. I don't know if I've ever played that. I can leave, and then you would need to explain to Lala why I left.
Ooh, do you really want to?
It says, "Did you do it?"
Did
Kitsu.
do it.
We super definitely beat Elden Ring. The game didn't bug out and crash at the last second and prevent me from gaining victory, because I would be unbelievably furious if that had happened. Especially if it maybe soft locked me out of the final area where you actually complete you mend the ring. That'd be a real bummer of a way to end a stream series that has been going on for 8 months. That would super suck.
Gray.
Super suck.
Where's your Halloween spirit?
Like, I mean, a failure of this caliber would make me question all of the decisions I've made. Mozzie says Hatun's too fun to leave. Okay, I think everything's working.
Do you have my stream up for the vid?
I have it up
on your stream.
I guess we'll see if there should be audio.
Okay, let's give a quick test here.
Story doesn't begin in the lands between.
That?
Yep, it's working.
That's good. All right.
All right. So, what's this video and who's it from?
This is Vati Vidya, which is resident Soulsborne lore fanatic.
The one who knows.
Yes, he is the one who knows. He has actually worked on, like, I think, strategy guides and stuff like that for the actual company, but his whole thing is he just loves breaking down Souls games. So you got stuff we'll go through for Elden Ring. We'll probably not go through all of them, but just some key ones, and then we'll check out the DLC trailers. How's that sound?
Sure, sounds good to me.
All right. So yeah,
Chase it's a good thing that didn't happen then.
So yes, this is going to be Elden Ring lore by Vati Vidya explained. Again, this is Vati. He's got 9.3 million views. If you know Souls games and you don't know him, where you been? You've been living under in a cave or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, you ready? You ready, Gray?
Sure. I'm so excited to learn what the heck I just played and definitely beat.
Our story doesn't begin in the lands between.
Yeah,
It begins in the cosmos, far
If
away,
it's too loud,
with
I can.
an outer god
It's actually kind of
called
loud
the
on my
Greater
end.
Will. There
It's a
are
little
a
loud over
lot
here.
of outer gods mentioned in Elden Ring. You can think of these kind of like the great ones of Bloodborne. They're distant beings. They're all-powerful and they're quite unknowable by design. But many of these outer gods want to make their presence felt in the world. The Greater Will, maybe most of all. To this end, it sent a golden star hurtling towards the lands between. The Elden Star's incantation tells us that this golden star was bearing a beast, an Elden beast. The Elden Remembrance calls it a vassal beast of the Greater Will. If you didn't know, a vassal is someone who holds land on behalf of their overlord. Obviously, this is fitting in this case, because the Elden Beast occupied the lands between on behalf of the Greater Will, and was a living incarnation of the concept of order. As such, this beast would later become the Elden Ring. The Elden Ring itself is made up of runes of power, some great, some small, that together represent a sort of logic for the world to follow. Thus, the Elden Ring represents order. The true nature of this order is a subject of constant debate and research undergone by fundamentalists. But two of the key fundamentals are the laws of causality and regression. You can think of the law of causality as cause and effect, where actions have consequences, and those consequences are new causes that branch out into infinity. These are the relationships between things. Then there's the law of regression that states that all things eternally yearn to converge and return to their roots. Fittingly, then, the Elden Ring is housed within the Erd Tree, which towers over the lands between. But it's very important to stress that life in the lands between did not begin with the Erd Tree, the Elden Ring, or the Elden Beast. No, the lands between were occupied well before the Greater Will came. There were other beings here. There were other factions here. There were other gods here. And there was even...
Yeah, he's I think he goes in with certain tools, or other like people he works with go in with modding tools and just like drive the camera around to get certain shots. So it's basically like debug
it's
stuff.
kind of impressive. Right, yeah, it's like doing like a no clip mode or something.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And another great tree here before the Erd Tree. And this is where a huge twist regarding the Erd Tree comes in. So there are incantations in the game called aspects of the Crucible. According to their descriptions, these are manifestations of the Erd Tree's primal vital energies. And I quote, "They are an aspect of the primordial crucible where all life was once blended together." But how could all life be blended together in the Erd Tree if the Erd Tree appeared after life existed? Well, there can only be one answer, right? That the Erd Tree is a parasite, and it took over a tree that existed here before.
Yeah, you missed it. It was a heck of a victory.
Tree was called the Great Tree. So the Great Tree was almost certainly the location of this primordial crucible, and it must have been a very powerful primordial force for the Greater Will to have...
This was by Fia, right?
Yes.
This is right.
And I don't know if it's necessarily the actual tree, but he might just be. Well, I think like showing like an example of like a giant stump.
Right.
But...
Yeah, I think the reason he picked this stump is because of the Crucible Knights. That's that one Crucible Knight we find there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it could be like a what's that called? Environmental storytelling, kind of like, oh yeah, this is one of the, because that was one of the only ones we fought that was a boss besides the one in the jail cell, right?
I think so. Like, I can't think of any other cases.
Yeah.
Well, Ozzy says tree is tree. But Enkidu, how was work? You missed quite an event.
Yep.
Not to go back to part 2 to find out how badly the game screwed us over at the last moment, but
yeah,
I will be angry forever.
Yep.
I will die with hate in my heart.
Yep.
Because of FromSoft.
Yep. Absolutely. You ready?
Yeah, sure.
Commandeered
trees to me.
Might even be the reason the lands between is important to the Greater Will in the first place. It also explains why spells and enemies related to the Great Tree's crucible would eventually be looked down upon. For example, the Knot Talisman is fashioned from a knotted vestige of the crucible, and it was considered a signifier of the divine in ancient times, but is now increasingly disdained as an impurity as civilization has advanced. Enemies related to the crucible are the Omen, the Misbegotten, and the Crucible Knights, and all three of them would be shunned, enslaved, or imprisoned. Those who speak for the Erd Tree don't want you to know its roots, so to speak.
Oh,
According
horny
to the
boys.
spell Protection of the Erd Tree, in the beginning everything was in opposition to the Erd Tree, but through countless victories in war, it became the embodiment of order.
In Marika's own words, the Erd Tree governs all. The choice is thine. Become one with the order, or divest thyself of it. To wallow at the fringes, a powerless upstart.
But the Greater Will needed more than a big tree. It needed loyal agents in the lands between. To this end, it has the Two Fingers, who are its envoys. The Two Fingers heirloom has a weird picture of them, but it reads, "Of course, fingers cannot speak, yet these are eloquent. Persistently they wriggle, spelling out mysteries in the air. Thus did we gain the words of our faith." These words are interpreted by the finger readers. These are the undying old crones that you would have found throughout the lands between. They pass down the wisdom of the Two Fingers.
By the way, did you catch that? What he showed with like words, but he did the quotation mark with two fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like,
Or at least they used to.
Your fingers, please, your fingers.
That's kind of fun.
I can
And she
read
goes,
them.
Cookie says Gray is
Most
just
of them appear to have
a scientist. Clever.
you're a scientist? You had a tail this whole time and you didn't tell me?
Oh, you never see the lower half of me, do you? Hmm?
No comment.
lost their purpose, and they're
I
desperate
have an
to read
angry
your
toggle.
fingers and tell you annoying riddles, since their two fingers are likely dead. And yes, of course, there are multiple sets of two fingers. You would have found their corpses on the tops of the divine towers. Atop these towers, you loot the fingers in order to activate the true power of a great rune. Specifically though, you are giving benediction back to your great rune. You're taking a blessing back from the two dead fingers, essentially. This is just one of many blessings that the two fingers can bestow, and my point is kind of that the two fingers clearly have more than just influence. They have
remember that, Keith.
real power on some level. The greater will needs these powers.
That's yeah, that was Ronnie's cave, right? Under the chapel.
Yeah. That's where we find like her actual body too, I think, or at least one of her dolls. But
Yeah, no, her actual body was on top of one of the towers. Remember, we found like a redhead body, I think, by her rune or something, or after we got the death rune or something.
maybe.
Yeah,
And I do love a good jackhammer cartoon in Yumazi.
yeah, he's addicted to the concrete dust. Like that's what gets him going.
It makes me strong.
Yeah. Listen, concrete is
Gets me
strong.
awake.
Therefore, if you inhale it, you will become strong, right?
It's like eating the hearts of my enemies. It works the same way.
Right. It's simple. What's it called? It's simple.
It's just
Math.
science.
The thing. The transitive property.
I'm-
There you go. That's what I'm.
Yeah,
That's what I was
I'm
thinking.
adding strongness to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And removing evidence from the world at the same time. It's great.
Powerful envoys and agents, because while it's obviously incredibly powerful, it does seem limited by a few things. First is space. The Greater Will didn't come to the lands between itself, it sent an elden beast to do its bidding instead. Second is time. There is a moment later in the game where your pair of two fingers go still, because they're forced to commune with the Greater Will for guidance.
When they are finished.
After playing my little intro into the DLC for Fallout New Vegas, I really don't like this picture right now.
Just a couple of fingers.
Yeah, yeah,
Nothing wrong with that.
yeah.
Normal.
Hand fingers, fingers on the hand.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's how they described it in the
I
game.
The
I don't even know
fingers
how else you would even see that.
will again offer their guidance. But thousands, if not tens of thousands, of moons must first pass. No matter for me. But you, how will you ever manage the wait?
So the Greater Will needs a physical manifestation of order. It needs envoys to convey its will, but what it also needs is a god. Introducing Marika the Eternal. I have this utterly enormous mind map of Elden Ring's lore, and there's a reason she's at the center. She's essentially the equivalent of Gwyn from Dark Souls, except unlike Gwyn, Marika didn't just crawl out of the dark and find power. To an extent, it seems like she earned it. We don't know much about her origins, except that she is of the Numen race, which is actually an origin that you can choose in the character selection screen. Numen come from outside the lands between, and are supposed descendants of denizens of another world, long-lived but seldom born. At some point, Marika was chosen as an Empyrean. What is an Empyrean? Well, an Empyrean is a being chosen by the Fingers as a candidate for godhood. As an Empyrean, Marika received the aid of a shadow to do her bidding. So what is a shadow? Well, it's a wolf, shadow-bound to its Empyrean by the two fingers. Luna Princess Rani is another example of an Empyrean with a shadow-bound beast. You would have met Blythe. These creatures are the Empyrean's very own shadow. They are...
By the way, anytime you need me to pause it in gray for questions or comments, just let me know.
Okay, sure thing.
Yeah.
The Lord of Sunlight shall not be blasphemed, says Ichigo. I guess people don't like that he slandered Gwyn.
I didn't even think he slandered Gwyn. He was just spitting facts.
Just suggested that Gwyn dared crawl out of the dark.
Hey, listen, everybody did that. Except the dragons. Dragons were there.
I mean, I can't trust anybody that has like a sometimes vowel as the only vowel in their name. That's just sus.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so are you saying just that sometimes vowel, or just having a sometimes vowel is a sign of issues?
If you
I need to
have
know.
a sometimes vowel, only a sometimes vowel is no good. Can't trust them.
Okay.
Because they're too back and forthy.
Okay.
Goodsworth.
So you're basically saying they need to pick a side. Names with just one. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
completely loyal to their needs and, by definition, incapable of treachery. Marika's shadow was a beast called Malakath. Every Empyrean uses their shadow in different ways, but Marika's sole need of her shadow was as a vessel to lock away destined death. So what is destined death? Well, according to Enya, it's the rune of death.
The rune of death goes by two names. The other is destined death.
We mentioned earlier that the Elden Ring is made up of runes, and at some point, maybe when she was chosen as a god, Marika plucked the rune of death from the Elden Ring. She gave the rune of death to Malakath, her totally loyal shadow, who bore a black blade imbued with this rune.
That was a fun fight.
It's kind of genius, really. In a single act, she removed the concept of death from the lands between, while also commanding total control of death through her shadow, who could deliver it at her whim. Now, some of you might be asking, if death is removed from the lands between, how come I can kill this dog? First off, shame on you. Second, from a lore point of view, that dog isn't really dead. It's simply in the process of its spirit, or its soul, returning to the Erd Tree. Catacomb dungeons, for example, are specifically constructed near the roots of the Great Tree for this reason, so that the Erd Tree can reabsorb their ashes back into it. This process replaced the concept of a death that you were destined to have, but this random spirit outside of a catacomb dungeon says it best. As another example of this theory, when you kill a major boss, you receive a remembrance of them. These are spirits, and they are hewn into the Erd Tree. In this way, thanks to the Erd Tree's grace, their spirits are immortalized, in a sense. This new form of death also explains what's happening when you summon spirits.
From ash and return to the Erd Tree.
However, some spirits never return to the Erd Tree, and they rise within death as corpses or skeletons instead.
Hmm.
So it seems like everybody, like, what's his name, D and his brother, and like going after Fia was basically just like, nope, we can't have death come back. Nope, no death. How dare you?
Yeah, they don't like it, I guess.
Yeah.
Can't trust you. Don't say
So
GIF.
this
Probably.
was
You
the
don't say like GIF. You say GIF. You just spell. You say it how it's supposed to be said. Ichigo. It's simple. That's simple.
Yeah. Duh. That's why I hang out with Drayson all the time.
Big preach.
Yep. By the way, the closed captions definitely picked up your name as Grace when I said that instead of Jason. That was interesting.
I expect a higher degree of respect then.
I only give respect to true Elden Lords.
Theory that Mirka tricked Malekith and helped Ronnie get the Room of Death to kill Godwin the Golden and start the Shattering. I mean, sure. That could have happened. For all we know. Seems like America really got the short end of the stick on that plan.
It was in this moment, when the Rune of Death was removed, when Destined Death was taken, this is when Order became the Golden Order.
The forbidden shadow plucked from the Golden Order upon its creation.
Specifically, this was Marika's Golden Order. So not only did she become a god and a vessel for the Elden Ring, she became renowned as Marika the Eternal for her removal of Destined Death. It was a huge part of her character and her reign as well. However, Marika had more than just death to conquer. She had wars to fight, as the world was occupied by many forces that could threaten her Golden Order. There was war with the Stormlord, who likely ruled over Stormvale, and there was a war with the Giants, who were masters of a flame that could burn the Erd Tree. There was war with the ancient dragons, who incidentally had stones that could twist time and thus slay a god. And finally, there was war brewing with the Carrion royalty, who had previously obeyed laws which contravened the Golden Order. Thus, sort of similar to how the Greater Will needed an Empyrean to enforce its will, Marika herself needed someone to wage war. So, there was to be a husband, a consort, an Elden Lord. The man chosen was Horalu, a ferocious warrior who became known as the Lord of the Battlefield.
I have to say, as far as like later game fights, he might have been one of the easier ones.
He was like really quick.
Like he had a lot of the
took us,
AoE moves, but like once you got the rhythm of like he'll do a move, then his stomp, like it's just like, okay, do a move, jump, do a move, jump. And it's like, okay.
Right. Like even like phase 2 like wasn't that much harder, but
yeah. And granted, we had what, 3 people at that time, maybe 2, depending on when somebody died. But yeah.
And we were fairly over leveled, I think, collectively. So
yeah, I mean, but that's just gonna happen with how we play.
It's a cool fighting concept, though.
Yeah. No, I really dug his kind of like warrior mode when he like took in the lion companion.
Right. His crown was warranted with strength, and while it was for this strength that Marika married him, he was also required to take a vow to conduct himself as a lord. To suppress the ceaseless lust for battle that raged within, Horalu took the beast regent Sarosh upon his back. You'll notice this is another example of a beast being given for the purpose of serving order. Thus, in this moment, he went from being Horalu, warrior, to Godfrey, the first Elden Lord, consort to Queen Marika, and a certified demigod. Godfrey and Marika had 3
I'm sorry, the lion on his back chewing on his shoulder just was like, man, Angelo has done that to me to get my attention.
Yeah, you know.
It's just like, hey,
buddy,
pay attention to me. Hey, I want pets.
I mean, he's probably telling you to contain all that ceaseless bloodlust you have, Smo.
Yeah, well, I can't help it.
demigod children.
Sirash is a hungry
There was
boy.
Godwin the Golden. 'Cause Godfrey and Marika had 3 demigod children together. There was Godwyn the Golden, who you saw being killed in the opening trailer, and there were also the reviled Omen twins, Morgoth, who guards the Erd Tree, and Mohg, who became Lord of Blood. You might think that Godric was another demigod child.
I just put that together. I think that's Mikola. Because remember, we find Mikola in the cocoon after the Mog fight.
Right.
So, like, if this is Mog and this takes place before, that's the only person I could think that is. Plus, they have the webbing on them already.
Maybe.
Oh, the webbing on the head makes the helmet.
You could look at the picture of Morgoth to learn the truth. It's got a lot of extra hands. That's probably unrelated.
It has Radon in it, and he's normal human size. Yeah, down here. Maybe, but there could have been... Oh, no, yeah, those are his gauntlets. Yeah, you're right. Huh.
Wild Omen twins.
That's probably
Morgoth,
a coincidence.
Who
Could be
guards the
anybody
Erd
that looks
Tree,
like Radon.
and Mohg, who became Lord of Blood. You might think
Oh,
that Godric...
I'm so dumb. That's the cocoon in the background.
And Mohg, who became Lord of Blood. You might think that Godric was another demigod child, but he actually wasn't. Instead, he was probably descended from Godwyn. Anyway, we'll talk about the demigods more in detail in another video, so subscribe for that. But for now, just know that Godfrey and his offspring were the first demigods, henceforth known as the Golden Lineage. In his wars, Godfrey led his 16 Crucible Knights into battle, who were named so for they fought with the primordial powers of the Erd Tree. Their incantations were aspects of the Crucible itself, and they likely
This
fought
looks like a
giants,
boss fight, but I don't
dragons,
remember it.
the
Oh, it's in
Stormlord,
a catacomb.
Yeah.
That's why.
usher in their
There's
age,
an early one.
the age of the Erd Tree.
In Marika's own words, hark, brave warriors. Hark, my Lord Godfrey. We commend your deeds. Guidance hath delivered ye through each ordeal to the place ye stand. Put the giants to the sword and confine the flame atop the mount. Let a new epoch begin, an epoch glistening with life. Brandish the Elden Ring for the age of the Erd Tree.
The Erd Tree would go on to be largely seen as a blessing for all of those in the lands between, especially those close to it in Leyndell, the capital city of the Erd Tree. The tree bestowed blessings. For example, the dew that dropped from its branches were like jewels. It loomed overhead as a constant reminder of order, and its roots reached far and wide, relieving many of the burden of death. In fact, Erd Tree burial was one of the highest honors a hero could receive. One by one, the previous factions of the world fell. The giants were put to the sword, and their fell god was killed by Marika herself. The ancient dragons broke down the walls of Leyndell, but met fierce retaliation. However, I think the House of the Erd Tree encountered the most trouble against the land to their southwest,
the dead one.
Leonia. Here, the House of the Moon repelled their offensives time and time again. And I mean that literally, because there was not just one, but 2 wars fought here. And in both of these, there was no victory for the Golden, nor for the Moon. And I suspect it was probably because of these lobsters. These damn things can snipe you from like a mile away, and it's bullshit. Actually, it was probably because of the Carrier Knights, who, according to their weapons, were able to wield sorcerous battle skills, and despite numbering fewer than 20, this power made them a match for even the champions of gold in battle. These enchanted knights were anointed by the Lunar Queen, a young astrologer who went on to establish the House of Carrier as royalty in this land. With her bewitching lunar magic, she won over the Academy of Raya Lucaria, where glintstone sorcery was studied, and united the Carrion royal family and the learned
all that
scholars
magic
of
to
Raya
smack a book.
Lucaria defended their home from the golden aggressors. At the head of this great golden army was Radagon.
Lord Radagon was a great champion, possessed of flowing red locks. He came to these lands at the head of a great golden host. When he met Lady Renala in battle,
These 2 champions clashed, fell in love, and joined their houses.
Radagon once cleansed himself with celestial dew, repented his territorial aggressions, and swore his love to Renala. The Order of the Erdtree and the fate of the moon were conjoined.
So that makes sense why we had to
Yeah.
get the Celestial Dew for the absolvement, because I remember we had to do it a couple times for
Right.
early game because of the
Yeah.
NPCs.
Kept hopping on people.
Yeah.
Oops.
Whoops.
And all the wounds of war forgiven.
You might think it strange that the Greater Will would permit this union, but it's not too odd, all things considered. As with most From Software games, sorcery and faith are just two sides of the same coin, and both of these powers stem from the cosmos. Radagon and Renala were known to have 3 children together. Lunar Princess Rani, who inherited her mother's propensity for lunar magic, Radahn, who took after his father Radagon and would go on to master gravitational magic, and Rykard, who pioneered new hex sorceries and would go
okay.
on to feed himself.
So that makes sense because he was in there. That's the serpent that you actually fought, and I guess he's the face.
Right, yeah.
To a great serpent. It follows that at some point after this, Marika began to harbor doubts. Doubts about the Golden Order, that she had had a hand in creating.
In Marika's own words, I declare mine intent to search the depths of the Golden Order through understanding of the proper way. Our faith, our grace is increased. Those blissful early days of blind belief are long past. My comrades, why must ye falter?
And it's at this point that we should talk about Marika's motivations, her character. This is surely going to be one of those huge points of debate in the coming years, but for now, my working theory is that she wanted to discover the truth behind order and the truth behind the greater will, and she believed that bonds had to be broken so that they could be better understood. She believed that there was great meaning to be found in hardship.
Queen Marika has high hopes for us, that we continue to struggle unto eternity.
For Lord Godfrey, his struggle ended at the end of his campaigns. According to his armor, he led the war against the giants, faced the Storm Lord alone, and then there came a moment when his last worthy enemy fell, and it was then, as the story is told, that the hue of Lord Godfrey's eyes faded. In truth, he was robbed of his grace. Then Marika sent him away.
My lord, and thy warriors, I divest each of thee of thy grace. With thine eyes dimmed, ye will be driven from the lands between. Ye will wage war in a land afar, where ye will live and die.
This became known as the Long...
So I'm guessing he's still kept a little bit of it, because this seems like he's like not in the lands between. But like he's still alive when we see him, and I mean the lion's not back, but it is in spirit. So
right, there's like some aspect of him. It might even be like something like brought forth by the Erdtree, like not necessarily him, but like some kind of a shade. But...
Well, I'm thinking like you're right, but it's maybe because he wasn't completely disconnected. Because, like, that little glow there almost makes me think it's like, no, he had almost like us, where it's like, oh, we got a little spark of it back kind of thing.
Well, I mean, that's what, because, like, that's what all the Tarnished are, and he became one of the Tarnished, it just said, so.
Yeah.
Live and die.
Me and my homies all hate
This became known as the Long March of the Tarnished, as Godfrey and his tarnished descendants walked away from the lands between. But Queen Marika absolutely had a plan here, that Lord Godfrey and his descendants would one day return stronger, having struggled outside of grace.
Then, after thy death, I will give back what I once claimed, return to the lands between, wage war, and brandish the Elden Ring. Grow strong in the face of death. Warriors of my lord, Lord Godfrey.
Soon after, she found a new husband. Either that or a new...
So kicked him out, and then the kids of kids of kids came back, beat the crap out of everything. Then he came back and was like, okay, I'll take it from here, kid. And you're like, nah, though. No.
Yeah.
Nah, we got this, Dad. We got this, Grandpapa. Go back home.
Right. I'm sure that's how that conversation went.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it went on my end. I don't know about you.
Sure. Her husband was found for her.
When Godfrey, first Elden Lord, was hounded from the lands between, Radagon left Rennala to return to the Erdtree capital, becoming Queen Marika's second husband and king consort, taking the title of Second Elden Lord. The mystery endures to this day as to why Lord Radagon would cast Lady Rennala aside, and moreover, why a mere champion would be chosen for the seat of Elden Lord.
Whatever the case,
So
as a part of this
mysterious.
union, Radagon's prior 3 children with Rennala became demigod stepchildren, granted grace thanks to their new family tree. Rennala was broken by this, and so was her country, Leonia. The Queen's set reads, when Rennala, head of both the Academy of Raya Lucaria and the Carian royal family, lost her husband Radagon, her heart went along with him. And then those at the Academy realized that Rennala was no champion after all.
Brick, I just want to make this point, and I'm sure it's the most controversial point that I've ever made. Breakups suck. Breakups suck. Anyway, continuing.
I mean, I think Rennala might have overreacted a little bit by turning all the people into like half babies.
Listen,
That's kinda weird.
if my man's not gonna be here to give me a baby, I'ma have a baby.
Yeah.
Dang it.
It's just so controversial, yet so brave. Ichigo says Grandpa Grayson. No. So young, guys. I might not even be old enough to drink for all you know.
Gray, even if you were, you wouldn't. That's how old you are.
I mean, sure.
All right, well, that
Smells
settles
bad.
it. He's old.
No. I'm not yet in my third score of years. What do you mean?
We're gonna hit play here, and I'm gonna pretend like I am not either.
In the wake of Radagon's betrayal and Rennala's poor judgment, Leonia struggled with civil war, with the Academy of Raya Lucaria on one side and the Carian royals on the other. And it's here, during the age of the Erdtree, that Lunar Princess Rani, daughter of Rennala and Radagon, stole a fragment of the Rune of Death.
It happened.
Alright, getting some lore here. After the House of Caria and the Academy found out Rennala was no champion at all, they locked her eternally in that library. Dang, Queenie, you so depressed. Go back to your room. Just stay in there. Just go back to your room. Sleep it off.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
During the golden age of the Erdtree, long before the shattering of the Elden Ring. Someone stole a fragment of the Rune of Death from Malekith, the Black Blade.
As mentioned previously, Malekith was Marika's shadow, and he had sealed destined death in a black blade. Then a fragment, only a fragment, of this Rune of Death was stolen. And once this happened, Malekith went a step further in protecting destined death. He bound the blade within his own flesh, such that none might rob death ever again. It was too late, however. This fragment of the Rune of Death was used immediately, that night, to kill a demigod, Marika's own son, Godwyn the Golden.
That was the first recorded death of a demigod in all history, and it became the catalyst. Soon, the Elden Ring was smashed, and thus sprang forth the war known as the Shattering.
Now,
like
there is a
that.
lot of really...
I'm guessing this is when he turns into the big goopus monster we see by Thea.
Right.
Big, like, fishy
I
monster.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
incredible
gross.
evidence that Marika was behind this plot to have a fragment of the Rune of Death stolen. There's also a ton of evidence that Marika is behind the entirety of your tarnished quest, but we'll talk about that in another video. For now, all you really need to know, in terms of the timeline at least, is this. After the marriage of Marika and Radagon, and after a fragment of the Rune of Death was stolen, Marika went on to shatter the Elden Ring, and Radagon attempted to repair it, to no avail. The Elden Ring had been broken into runes, some great and some small.
You know, it's said that Lord Radagon harbored a secret. A famed sculptor of the Erdtree capital was once summoned to render Lord Radagon's likeness in giant stature, when he glimpsed the skeleton in Radagon's closet. And as such, it's said the great statue harbors his secret too.
Of course, the huge twist in Elden Ring is that Radagon is Marika, or depending on what you believe, he became her, for she knew it was going to happen.
In Marika's own words, O Radagon, leal hound of the Golden Order, thou art yet to become me. Thou art yet to become a god. Let us be shattered, both. Mine other self.
You can tell when From Software is keeping something a little bit open-ended, and of everything in Elden Ring's lore, this will also go on to be one of the biggest unknowns as we move forward. For example, the wording, thou art yet to become me, reinforces that Marika and Radagon were two separate entities before the Shattering. However, in contrast, there is also evidence that Radagon was always part of Marika. For example, Enya says that
The demigods are each and all the direct offspring of Queen Marika.
But how can this be if Radagon married Rennala and had those demigod children? The only way that makes sense is if Radagon was always Marika and he just went over there to seduce Rennala long ago. I'll present more concrete theories in the future, but on this matter, the most important thing is, what do you think? While you can figure out a ton of Elden...
Sorry, I have to just say, this shot is incredible. Like, the fact that the electricity is still going off of it, but he's standing still is... Like, I want that as a statue. That's awesome.
Pretty sick.
America's Zeus confirmed. I mean, Zeus did, like, changing up shape all the time, so... He also did, like, screwing everything up, so... Oh
no. Oh, and Ichigo has lore about... I guess Rennala did attempt to make babies, but I guess if you're trying to make babies out of one person, ends up with, like, a half baby, which I guess makes sense.
With those kids that were trying to sing around her.
Yeah, her
he just, like... hey, Black Thunder. Nah, he just, like, skewering everything. Listen, I was trying to be, you know, kind of subtle about it, but you're right. Hey, Black Thunder, it's nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a while, bro. Yeah, Lord Dive.
Ring story.
Yeah, we're learning
Not
everything.
all of it is open to interpretation. Certain things are, and this is one of them. And your interpretation is a big part of what makes this story special. At any rate, the union of Radagon and Marika seems to be a union of two fundamental opposing laws of the Golden Order. We mentioned these laws earlier, actually. There's the law of causality, and Marika is an agent of cause and effect. And there's the law of regression, as Radagon is a character who aspires to be complete and regress together. So I have a theory that forcing these two beings that represent these concepts together would have corrected Marika's deviance. But even so, she was imprisoned in the Erdtree for the crime of the Shattering.
Marika's trespass demanded a heavy sentence. But even in shackles, she remains a god and the vision's vessel.
The conjoined Radagon and Marika even had two demigod children of their own, Miquella and Millennia. These two children were born afflicted. Miquella was cursed with eternal childhood, and Millennia harbored a horrific rot within. Even so, these two children were both chosen as Empyreans. They were immensely sacred beings, and eligible to inherit godhood from the Greater Will. Perhaps the Greater Will was just desperate to find a worthy successor, and indeed in the Shattering War to come, many would try to claim the shards of the Elden Ring, and they would try to take the throne, including, of course, the Tarnished, who returned from their long march at long last, which we'll talk about in the next main lore video. I should probably also mention here that if you become a patron, you'll see
I think that's basically the end. I think this is
upcoming lore
Patreon
videos
stuff.
early, as that's one of the rewards you get if you pledge to the $3 tier.
there's some
I
things I
think
think
my channel really adds a lot of
Video
value to the Souls games for you, to the point where you pledge $20, then in this new tier you'll receive a new mug every 3 months that has a unique
This just
design
in, having
to do
babies
with
with
the games
yourself
by
gives you
From
unhealthy
Software. There are
babies.
4 to collect. The first one you'll get is inspired
Never.
by Dark Souls,
I
then Elden Ring, then Sekiro, and
seek
finally
to prove you
Bloodborne.
wrong, Ichigo.
They all have fantastic art that I worked on with an amazing artist
Ridiculous.
named Chu. But anyway, I figured this is the right place to end this video, because the information here is going to be overwhelming. I bet it probably was too overwhelming, you know? It took me ages to commit these names and the relationships they had with other characters to memory, so I hope you guys are doing alright. One thing that helped me a lot was that we
Which is great,
designed
so
an
someone wants to
enormous
hear that.
mind map with pretty much all of Elden Ring's lore, all of its item descriptions, all of its dialogues, all of the relationships between
That's great,
characters that we can think of. We added all of this together, and it helped a ton in learning about the story and visualizing it all. And one day I will make this asset available.
Hydration is
because
important!
I think after doing it, I think this is the quintessential way to piece together the story, and I think giving you guys this asset eventually will make that accessible for people. So I'm really excited about that. I want to thank Absa and Zard for accepting the paid task of helping me put all the raw data into this mind map so that I could better understand everything. I want to thank Paragod for...
I was just making sure we got through the, any sponsorships or anything.
You're just thinking a bunch of yahoos that did stuff for him.
I know. So it seems like he did a
Watch
bunch
his
of...
Michaela video. It's so friggin' packed floor. Ichigo, I'm gonna just... This is the first video we've watched, so we have not seen anything else.
Yeah, and there's a ton of stuff here. We're not going to be able to get to all this, obviously, on video.
It's fun to get a little more context.
Yeah. I think that was a good,
sure.
like, overview on a lot of things.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll watch the next one on the demigods, and then we can watch the trailers. How's that sound?
Sure. That works for me, boss.
Yeah.
The demigods
whatever
are
you and your
each
purple
and
hat
all
want.
Yeah. Any leftover questions for you as far as like, I guess, a general overview, or did that kind of answer a lot of like what we were doing kind of thing?
It answered a lot of what we're doing. It didn't really explain anything about the lands between itself, which has been a big question mark. Because I'm still unclear if the lands between is like an actual physical location, like it's a planet. I mean, I guess it would just represent like a singular continent of the whole planet. So I don't understand like
why specifically that continent?
Yeah, like why is it so like what was so sweet? The Greater Will's like, I want this.
I guess the tree or something about the tree, because what they were explaining about like the crucible and everything like that, and the tree that housed it, maybe that's what it was after. Like it was like,
yeah, but it sounds like
beelining
it took everything over so easily. This like, was that really like anything worth it? Like it seems like it's been like a lot of work for nothing that it really got back.
I don't know. Maybe that's one of those like, you know, like it's a you know, Cthulhu West being that just wants to, you know, put influence overall, you know, that kind of jazz.
Perhaps.
Yeah. I don't
know.
The demigods are each and all the direct offspring of Queen Marika. There was Godwyn, Morgoth, Mohg, Radahn, Rykard, Rani, Mikola, and Melania, Blade of Mikola. Melania, Blade of Mikola, Melania, Blade of Mikola, and Melania. Not again. All of these demigods had fallen from grace by the time the shattering occurred. But in this video, I want to mostly talk about the origins of these characters, who these demigods were before the fall. And some of these demigods fell a long way indeed. Before he became this unsightly mess, Godwyn the Golden was quite the heroic figure. He was born of the promising union between Lord Godfrey and Queen Marika, and he achieved great renown for his bravery in one of their wars at least, the War of the Ancient Dragons. This war began when Grandsax, a great ancient dragon, rained calamity down upon Leyndell, marking the only time in historical record that Leyndell's walls had fallen. It's not...
Sorry, so that would be the dragon there. Black Thunder says, if I asked Melania to a coffee date, do you think she would accept?
I don't know if she drinks coffee.
Yeah, honest. I was gonna say the same thing. I think, honestly, I think she'd be more of a tea person, like a poison bloom tea, or like a rot bloom tea.
Like she seems like she's already like super wired out. Like she probably like would prefer more calming drinks.
Right.
Might be able to go to a bar with her, maybe.
You're gonna get sick anyway from the drinks, so might as well.
Yeah.
And I don't say that because like you go to a bar and you automatically get drink until you're sick. I mean that as she's gonna try to drink you under the table because it's Melania. Like, what are we doing?
She's undefeated. She has to outdrink you.
If I offered her a strawberry parfait, do you think she would give me a... Okay. Where... Okay. Thank you, Black Thunder. Where's the no horny stick? Bring that out.
Whatever she decides, she said, only if my small broken... Well, you can't go to the bar then.
Yeah.
So there's no way that you bring in Mikola and it's like, no, he's cursed with childhood. He's old enough.
It's like, no, and I don't mean that in the weird anime way. No.
Wait. It's totally chill.
Officer, hold on, wait.
No,
wait,
don't touch the cocoon. He's sleeping. It's fine.
Oh. No, I did not spike his drink with blood. That was not me. No, officer, no. Mog, you jerk.
Not clear why Grandsax first attacked, but fortifying themselves against lightning, the Knights of the Erd Tree weathered his assault, and Grandsax was defeated. However, this was only the beginning, and a bitter war against the ancient dragons was to follow. During this war...
hold on. Was that also supposed to be the snack dragon?
I mean, I think that was like a shadow of him that we did fight throughout that area.
I would actually think that would be him, because it seems like that cyclone was like a time cyclone because of the rock. But you know how he like laid down and like time was weird and kooky and everything like that. Yeah. Maybe that world is just like time locked almost, like it's a freaking TARDIS kind of thing.
It could be. I mean, I'm sure the dragons are like timeless or something. They have control over time in some way.
Yeah.
So there's some weird nonsense going on there.
The Erd Tree Sentinels had an epiphany that the only way to truly protect the Erd Tree was to become dragons themselves. And so, despoiling the corpses of their foes, the grotesque Sentinels served the Erd Tree, but fought with the claws of the enemy instead. In the end, the ancient dragons were routed once again. In a graveyard of swords by the Stormcaller Church, the end of the war is commemorated. Here, we learn that during battle, Godwyn the Golden defeated Fortisax, called the mightiest dragon of them all. However, he did not kill Fortisax.
Okay, so that's why going into the dream of Fia brings you there, because that would be like Godwyn's dream, basically.
Right.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Instead, he befriended him. And it was in this act that the powers of the ancient dragons truly became a part of Leyndell. After all,
they're actually fighting like
by
his friend in a dream.
Can survive the ordeal of cladding their bodies in lightning. So, from an unlikely friendship, an ancient dragon cult was born in the capital city, and the Knights of Leyndell learned to worship the dragons and wield their lightning. Lanciax, sister of Fortisax, even took human form to better commune with the knights. It was officially decided that the worship of the ancient dragons did not conflict with belief in the Erd Tree, and it was all thanks to Godwyn, commander of the dragons' golden lightning, and a true child of the golden lineage. But now, let's talk about Morgoth.
So
he was the overachiever.
Right, so does that mean that Leyndell then was also attacking Radahn, and that's why there's a bunch of dragons there?
Maybe.
Because I don't see any reason for them to attack there before that.
Well, the thing is, like, because Radahn had gone mad, and I think at some point there was a thing of, like, just trying to kill Radahn to stop him.
Right, but...
Because that's why the Radahn Festival was happening.
I don't think he went mad until after that Melania fight, though. Like the one where the giant flower comes out of his back. Because he didn't look, like, insane like he was during our cutscene kind of thing. He actually, like, looked at her and was, like, angry with her kind of thing.
Right.
Huh. Okay. Environmental storytelling. Leyndell didn't attack Radahn until after Godwyn died. Okay, so they would have had the powers of the dragon... Or, like, I guess the allegiance of the dragons at that time when yeah. Okay.
Morgoth and Mohg, the Omen twins, who were also born of Godfrey and Marika's golden lineage. First, what is an omen? Well, to put it simply, an omen is an accursed child seen as impure, as they are born with horns on the body and face. When this happens, the correct thing to do, culturally at least, is to cut off the horns of the omen, an act which usually causes them to perish. It's pretty messed up, but some omen do survive this process, and some omen are even given a cleaver, crafted specifically for them and awarded as a tool of war, although these weapons are bestowed with a readiness to take them away. We find one such omen in an Erd Tree camp upon the Altus Plateau. Before you fight it, you might have noticed another omen nearby, writhing in its sleep. It's said that omens see evil spirits in their nightmares, and I think this omen is dreaming, haunted by the vengeful spirits of its accursed kin. This brings us to the Omen Killers, who are horrifying butchers of twisted conscience. They wear these horned masks that make a mockery of the Omen's nightmares, and these butchers hunt the Omen and amputate their horns. The first Omen Killer was named Rollo, a famous perfumer who had to imbibe a physic to rid himself of emotion so that he could better perform his tasks.
Okay. If you have to remove your emotion, you're probably... That's very much Are We the Baddies moment at that point.
No. They're doing the right thing.
Listen, I gotta remove my emotions to do this. Are you sure this good? No, totally. We need...
I mean, it could be like the emotion of, like, disgust from cutting off so many horns. Maybe just, like, don't want to get all vomity every time you do it.
Remember, it seems many omen have their horns excised when they're very young. That's definitely disturbing enough to warrant an emotion-killing physic in my book. However, if the omen is born of royalty, then their horns are not cut off, but the omen is kept underground, unbeknownst to anyone, and imprisoned for eternity. By way of example, you would have seen all kinds of omen confined to the sewers beneath Leyndell. But why are omen considered to be accursed in the first place? Some of them are clearly intelligent, so what's inherently wrong with being born with horns and great strength? Well, it's important to remember, I think, that this curse might only really exist in the context of the Golden Order. After all, those afflicted with omen horns are not able to return to the Erd Tree for rebirth, and are said to be born outside of its grace. But why does the Golden Order disavow the omen, then? Well, it's hard to say for sure, but my working theory is that it's to do with the Crucible. According to this ancient incantation, horns were once an aspect of the Erd Tree's primordial crucible where all life was once blended together. And with the exception of a couple of crucible nights in and around Lane.
I don't know if you noticed, he did say at the bottom there that that could not be a place the crucible was. So you're right about him just picking like that location.
Okay. We know that the Golden Order has started to distance itself from most things that touch upon the crucible. While things like horns, knots, feathers, and scales once grew on the human body and were considered signifiers of the divine, now they are disdained as impurities as civilization has advanced. We learn
Additionally, Morgott has a tail and Mog gains feather wings in Phase 2. That's why Mog was doing that one move that looked exactly like the Crucible Knight dash.
Oh.
Got it. Okay. Piecing together.
And this from the knot, scale, and feather talismans.
Oh, and that's why he was using the hammer in his tail and golden glow when we were fighting. What's his first form called? The one we fight at Stormvale.
Margit.
Margit, yes. When he's Margit, he does that like tail swipe kind of thing. I think he does it in Phase 2 as well, but like we barely saw it in that form.
Right. Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
All of which are guarded by Omen, or dropped by Omen killers, no less. Unfortunately for the Order of the Erd Tree, these once divine impurities seem to crop up in some births, whether they like it or not. Almost like it's a genetic trait, as if it touches upon the crucible at the root of the Erd Tree. And so you have to ask, is it really a curse to be born as a graceless Omen? Well, as with most curses in these games, I think that depends on your perspective.
Oh, was the Dung Eater
in any
Omen?
case, Mohg and Morgott were Omen.
I don't know if he was an Omen or somebody who was like super into being Omen-like, because it seemed like those horns were part of the armor. It's like we wear the armor and we have like the stubs of the horns kind of popping out.
Right. Interesting. But the tarnished could ruin farms as a J spot. You're right.
I just had a thought and I lost it. Oh, maybe that's why he needed the seedbed curses. Because remember we picked those up and it was like the red goop with the horns coming out of it?
Yeah.
Maybe he was
Didn't taste very good, I'd remember.
Yeah. Okay.
And royalty. And thus they were born into a wretched mire far below the earth, horns and all. Here they were kept under the strictest confinement. Each of them were bound with charmed shackles that were covered in roots or thorns and bathed in golden magic. It seems very few people were supposed to know that they even existed. Morgott, for his part, renounced and despised his accursed Omen blood, but his brother Mohg embraced it. Deep underground, Mohg stood before an outer god, a being called the Formless Mother, who craves wounds, a being capable of bestowing power upon accursed blood. In this moment, Mohg's accursed blood erupted with fire, and he became besotted with the defilement that he was born into. Here, deep below the earth, he would go on to build a dynasty of blood in reverence of a mother, something it seems he never truly had. As for Morgott, he was born into the same accursed fate as his twin brother, but despite not being blessed with grace, he loved the Erd Tree all the same, and even took it upon himself to crawl out of the sewers and become the Erd Tree's protector when the Erd Tree needed him most. In the end, he rightfully became the Omen King and Lord of Leyndell. Omen or not, he was, after all, born of Godfrey and Marika's golden lineage.
Basically, it's like nobody else is here, and you fit the bill. So get in the robot, Mog.
Yeah, congrats.
Excuse me, Morgott.
Yes. The marriage between Godfrey and Marika would be ended, and before long, Marika remarried with another man, a champion named Radagon, who Marika calls her other half. He became second Elden Lord and the king consort.
Hey, Deeth. We're learning about Elden Ring together.
Yeah.
He also brought with him 3 children from a previous marriage that he had had with a Carian queen named Renala. These children were Rani, Rykard, and Radahn, and they all became demigod stepchildren after Radagon's reunion with Queen Marika. possessed of his father.
I have to say, it's really interesting how he's making this video where you don't necessarily need to see the first video, but it, like, he's jumping through, like, details that it's like, that's kind of important, but at the same time, he already explained it in the first video, but he's reading it like you don't need to see the first video. You get what I mean?
Right. Well, it's very clever for YouTubing to, like, because if you have like a part 1, part 2, part 3 thing, then like it makes that hard for it actually to get out into the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
And so by making them like semi-contained videos, they actually probably do a lot better for them.
Right. And it's just like, oh, if you want more details on this, go back. Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. Watch
Oh,
more
this flaming
videos.
red hair.
Sorry, I cut you off. What?
I just say watch more videos.
Yeah.
Radahn was fond of its heroic implications and considered himself to be born of a great champion. Yet he also looked up to another man, Godfrey, the first Elden Lord, Queen Marika's first husband and the Lord of the Battlefield. But Radahn wasn't just the son of Radagon and an aspiring Lord of the Battlefield, he was also the son of Rennala, who was head of the Academy of Raya Lucaria and Queen of Caria. So as a Carian royal, inclined towards sorcery, Radahn bent his will towards mastering gravitational magics. Rock sling, gravity well, collapsing stars. These techniques were taught to him in Sellia, the town of sorcery, all so he would never have to abandon his beloved but scrawny steed.
Did we find any gravity magic in that area? Is that where we got
he
rock
was
sling?
using gravity magic.
No, but in
Might have been
Sellia.
from that dungeon nearby. Oh, in Sellia? We definitely got magic there. I can't remember what one it was, but
But I mean, specifically any gravity magic there. Maybe like one?
I can't remember for sure.
Huh,
I wasn't really paying attention to magic back then. So.
But I guess that would make sense even if there wasn't, like if it just was another school, because it is in, why is my brain blanking on that area's name? Caelid.
Liurnia? Oh, Caelid?
No, Caelid, where, because that's where, it's by the Rot Lake where Sellia is. Remember that place with the invisible guys and the jumping on the towers and turning on the lights, yeah.
That said, before long, his powers would be put towards a more cosmic purpose than simply allowing him to ride his own horse. Radahn was taught gravitational magic by an Alabaster Lord, a member of a race of ancients with skin of stone who was said to have risen to life when a meteor struck long ago. And when his lessons were complete, Radahn uttered these chilling words.
Thank you for your tutelage. For now, I can challenge the stars.
And, of course, he did conquer the stars, and the very constellations would be halted by his strength. But of course, you kind of have to ask, why? Why was it necessary to conquer the stars in the first place? Well, I have a couple of theories. Theory one is that it was done in self-defense. After all, according to the Sword Gravestone, Radahn was protecting Sellia. What's more, gravitational magic has destructive power, and many gravitational beasts are proof of that destructive power. A being named Astel had even come down to the Lands Between in the past and destroyed a place called the Eternal City. What's more, Sellians are descendants of the Eternal, positioned right above the Eternal City underground, so there is an argument to be made for Radahn purely defending Sellia for some reason here. But it's possible for Radahn to have fought in this conflict and to have made the first move as well. So this is theory 2, that Radahn conquered the stars as a preventative measure in service to the greater will. According to a set of astrologer items, the night sky cradles fate. There's even a banished sect of people called the Nox, who live deep below the earth in eternal anticipation of the coming age of stars and their Lord of Night. Long ago, these people invoked the ire of the greater will, so it would make sense that those in service to the greater will might have sought to arrest the stars and put an end to this fate. What's more, Radahn was just a huge fanboy of Godfrey, and he seems to have more loyalty to the Erd Tree than to the moon. Finally, the telescope item description says that the fate once writ in the night skies had been fettered by the Golden Order, so surely this is referencing Radahn's actions, and it levels the blame at the Golden Order. But putting Radahn's motivations aside, it's a fact that the stars were held back and that this had great consequences for many, especially for the rest of his Carian royal family.
Let me explain. The fate of the Carian royal family is guided by the stars, as is the fate of Lady Rani, first heir in the Carian royal line. But General Radahn is the conqueror of the stars, who stood up to the swirling constellations, halting their movement in a smashing victory. And so, if General Radahn were defeated, the stars would once again resume their movement, as would Lady Rani's destiny.
Lunar Princess Rani was the daughter of Radagon and Renala, and sister to Radahn. Interestingly, if you look at her true body atop the Divine Tower, it looks like she might have also inherited the red hair of Radagon.
Yeah.
Cool detail. But unlike her brother, Radahn, she quite clearly took up.
Ichigo says Radahn being more loyal to the Erdtree than the moon makes sense because Karya is matriarchal, I guess would be. Anyway, so Rani would become head of Karya, not Radahn. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's like he was already lusting for power against that. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. He's a younger brother, so I mean, even without the hey, you're going to become, you know, like even without it being a matriarchal society, he still would probably have that bone to pick.
Right.
After her mother,
can't trust a younger sibling.
Was Renala, head of the Carian royal family.
I'm gonna not pause from here on out, just so we can get to this and then the trailers.
One that seems to go way back to the astrologers. In the Carian Manor, we find one of their treasures, the Sword of Night and Flame. It reads, astrologers who preceded the sorcerers established themselves in mountaintops that nearly touched the sky and considered the fire giants their neighbors. Renala herself was an astrologer, always chasing the stars in her youth. Then she met the full moon, and in time, the astrologer became a queen, establishing the House of Karya as royalty. Karya appears to have a matriarchal hierarchy, with multiple princesses and Carian knights that serve as their retainers.
And I mean, most of them
now, however,
that we thought were
only one princess,
female.
Rani, daughter of Renala. And at the time of her birth, she would have been set to inherit quite a lot of power indeed, for the Carian royal family was at its height, and her mother was not only queen, she was also head of the Academy of Raya Lucaria, having bewitched them with the enchanting power of the full moon. Leading the young Rani by the hand, Renala guided her daughter to a meeting with a moon of her own. What Rani beheld was cold, dark, and veiled in occult mystery. A dark moon, a sort of twin to Renala's own full moon. You can even see both of these hanging in the sky if you stargaze from the heights of the moonlined plateau. Another who guided Rani was a character called the Snowy Crone, who the young Rani encountered deep in the woods. When you look at Rani, it's actually the likeness of this snow witch that you're seeing, as the doll that now houses Rani's soul was modeled after her, probably as a sign of respect.
But the other
Clearly,
side would
Rani
actually
looked
be
up
her.
to this mysterious woman. She became Rani's secret mentor, and she even knew about the Dark Moon, teaching the young Rani to fear it as she imparted her cold sorceries. So, what do these moons represent? That's just a theory, but I think the moons kind of act as guides. The lost black moon of Noxtella, for example, was the guide of countless stars. What's more, Rani and Renala were heavily influenced by their moons. Renala's moon bewitched the academy that she became the head of, and Rani's dark moon, for its part, also imparts wisdom and leads a voyage in the Age of Stars ending. They could even be outer gods. And yet, for all of this guidance, Karya and Leonia as a whole have experienced steep decline. Radagon betrayed the House of the Moon. Radahn locked the stars out of motion. The Academy town is flooded to the north. Karya has been ruined in the west, and the stars and moon have gone their separate ways. Nevertheless, Rani, last princess of Karya, remains, carefully setting new plans into motion. Sibling to Rani and Radahn was a man named Rykard, who was lord of the Volcano Manor. There is evidence that Rykard was friendly with his siblings. He conspired with his sister Rani later on, and there's even a portrait of Radahn hung in the Volcano Manor, as well as a portrait of Rykard himself before the fall. Item descriptions mark Rykard as stern, ambitious, heroic, and blasphemous. A part of this blasphemy was opposing the Erd Tree, which actually drew many knights to his banner, for Rykard believed in taking by force, just as the gods did, and clearly many believed that he would usher in a new age. The armor set of the Gelmir Knights reveals to us what were once very loyal soldiers. The crest of red feathers are there to symbolize Rykard's pedigree as Lord Radagon's son, and the emblem upon their chest piece represents a lord who had lofty ambitions. However, as Rykard delved into the ancient secrets of Mount Gelmir, he came across the immortal Great Serpent, an ancient deity that aligned with Rykard's ambitions. And so, Rykard fed himself to the Great Serpent so that he might devour, grow, and live eternally. Alas, this was too much for his knights, and they believed that their master's heroic ambitions had degenerated into mere greed. So they searched desperately for a weapon with which they might halt their lord, and they found it too. The immortal serpent had lived for a long time, and so there was also a weapon to kill it that had been designed long ago as well, a serpent hunter. But it was too late. As the lord lost his dignity, so too did the knights lose their master. Not that it bothered Rykard.
Now we can devour God together.
Next, we need to discuss Millennia and Mikola. These two were twins, as they were born. No, Rykard, please. Anyway, as you know, Radagon's marriage with Renala did not last. Afterwards, he returned to the Golden Order and became Queen Marika's consort. But what I haven't yet mentioned is that, together, they were blessed with two demigod children, the so-called twin prodigies. Now, in the last lore video, I briefly proposed that these two twins were born after the Shattering, after Radagon and Marika had merged together to become a single god. However, I've since changed my mind. I think Millennia and Mikola were clearly born before the Shattering. There's just so much proof that these two twins were a force that were influencing the world long before the Shattering took place. Anyway, both of these twins were born afflicted. Specifically, in the Japanese text, it's said that their births were vulnerable. Mikola was born afflicted with eternal youth, and Millennia, for her part, was vulnerable to rot. Interestingly, Millennia's scarlet rot is actually an outer god. This outer god, like many others in the game, seems to have an order that is able to be imposed upon the world via an Empyrean vessel, and Millennia was that vessel. And while the Scarlet Rot is pretty terrible, you can sort of argue that it's got a beauty to it. According to Gowry, the Order of Rot is resplendent. It's a cycle of death and rebirth, kind of like the lotus flower, which is a flower that blooms anew, beautiful and fresh from mud. I actually have art of this flower hanging in my home. I always love this symbol.
And a lot of lotus symbolism.
I actually have lots of art hanging now.
Games we
play. I'm going to talk about all of this artwork that you can buy at the end of the video. Anyway, so Millennia the Empyrean was vulnerable to and afflicted by the Scarlet Rot. There was said to be no cure to this, and while fire and consecration seemed to be somewhat effective at warding it off, Millennia would slowly lose her physical self to the rot. Interestingly, old legends of the Scarlet Rot have persisted in the world for generations, and we learn more about the Rot God from the Blue Dancer charm.
Sorry, I have to really quickly use the restroom, so if you could fill time for a bit.
Yep, no problem. All right, everybody. What do you think we're going to learn? I feel like.
I'm back.
Oh hey, welcome back. Environmental storytelling. It's a whole other aspect of how to play. I get it, but I feel like a game should give you like 80% of the story and then have like 20% be hidden in lore stuff, not 20% of the story given and 80% hidden in lore stuff. I think that's a little much. But anyway, sorry, Smo.
No, you're fine. Yeah, it's definitely a different. Actually, one of the things I remembered from an interview was that Miyazaki, the producer director of most of the Souls games, used to read, I believe, English mystery novels where he didn't understand everything and just kind of like pieced it together, which is the kind of feeling that he wanted to give when playing the game, where it's like, I kind of get the gist, but like to figure things out, you actually have to go looking into it, and to figure out the full mystery, you have to almost like dissect the English like he would have had to for those mystery novels. Right. Yeah. I thought that was very like, oh, okay, that's like the reasoning, you know, whether people like it or not, you know, personal preference kind of thing. But I thought that was pretty cool.
It's his game. He gets to make it his way. But you know.
Yeah.
Also, we're trying to decide: is the Rot God a good dancer? Then we think.
Yes. Rot God is well, yeah. I mean, if the Rot God has basically taken over Melania at that point, that means that the sword move, the dance, is basically them.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
The dancer in blue represents a fairy who, in legend, bestowed a flowing sword upon a blind swordsman. Blade in hand, the swordsman sealed away an ancient god, a god that was rot itself. Specifically, this god was long ago sealed away in the stagnant water that is downstream of the Ainsel River underground. And wherever rot appears, the kindred of rot appear as well. These are pests and servants of the rot. And now, in the current age, these are servants that have been forsaken by Melania, who is their new goddess. So, this blind swordsman with the flowing curved sword actually went on to become Melania's mentor. So technically it's him that we have to blame for this goddamn attack. The prosthesis wearer heirloom tells us more. A talisman engraved with a scene from a heroic tale. Though born into the accursed rot, when the young girl encountered her mentor and his flowing blade, she gained wings of unparalleled strength. Melania's ridiculous attack is called the Waterfowl Dance, and aesthetically it makes sense that, flowing waters would counter the effects of rot. For just as still waters turn foul, stagnation turns to decay. Thus, warriors must remain ever drifting. And indeed, Melania does resist the call of the rot. There's a lot of evidence that she's not really a willing vessel, but through sheer will and sense of self, she resists the rot. And only when she is truly pressed in battle will she abandon this will and bloom into the goddess within. Melania's first bloom was during her fight against Radahn, and releasing her scarlet rot was a last-ditch effort that would forever taint the land of Caelid and cripple Radahn. So, whatever she was fighting for in this fight against Radahn, somehow it was worth this terrible act. In general terms, at least, it's clear that Melania was fighting for her brother. Apart from the times where she relapses into being the goddess of rot, she is known as the Blade of Miquella. She actually goes to great lengths to tell you this. I don't know if you heard. Despite being the toughest boss in From Software history, she's actually fighting for his right to godhood, not her own. In Melania's own words, her brother Miquella possesses the wisdom, the allure of a god. He is the most fearsome Empyrean of all. For his part, Miquella did a lot to earn his sister's dedication, not the least of which was inspiring her armor and a prosthetic of unalloyed gold. It is not just his sister that loved Miquella, many people did. The Bewitching Branch is an item that you can use to turn enemies into temporary allies, and it reads, "Indeed, he has learned very well how to compel such affection." For his father Radagon, Miquella fashioned and gifted to him a fundamentalist incantation called Triple Rings of Light. Radagon then returns the favor, gifting back an incantation called Radagon's Rings of Light. These interactions show some of Miquella's positive connections with his father and also Golden Order fundamentalism. And yet, the young Miquella abandoned fundamentalism, for it could do nothing to treat Millennia's accursed rot. This was the beginning of unalloyed gold. So, what is unalloyed gold? Well, an alloy is a composition of metals, so unalloyed gold is pure gold, essentially, with no external mixtures. This gold apparently can ward away the meddling of outer gods, and so Miquella bent a lot of his efforts towards creating an unalloyed gold needle. Specifically, this needle was crafted for his sister, to ward off the rot god and forestall the effects of the incurable rotting sickness.
The other
we
rock
see
girl.
the bond between the siblings as well when we visit Miquella's Halig tree. We see a statue of a one-armed woman embracing a child, Miquella. In this place, we see the biggest example of Miquella's benevolence, the Halig tree, and the society that was built into the brace that supports it. This was a promised land, seen as a salvation to many who were shunned or persecuted, provided that they can actually find the path here, of course. And like many other Empyreans, Miquella seems to have had the will within them to create a new order, and his is an order that's somewhat modeled on the ones that came before it. The biggest thing is that the Halig tree is clearly inspired by the Erd tree. But the difference is that Miquella's Halig tree is said to be accepting of all, even those the Erd tree shuns. Miquella himself was once embedded inside of the Halig tree, and he watered it with his very own blood since it was a mere sapling. Tragically, however, he was ripped out of this womb during the shattering, and his Halig tree ultimately failed to grow into an Erd tree, becoming a misshapen husk instead. But that's the story for another day. There's also a ton of cut content to do with Miquella, and he's one of the most mysterious demigods, who I'm sure we'll learn about more later. But there is one more thing that I want to mention before I go. It's kind of one theory I had during the making of this video. So, Miquella and Millennia each have their own butterflies. Millennia's is the Aeonian butterfly, which inhabit the swamp of Aeonia and are rumored to come from the wings of the rot goddess herself. And I think it's fair to say that Miquella's butterfly is the nascent butterfly, which appears as if it's just emerged from its cocoon for its entire life. This is a reference to Miquella's eternal youth and his cocoon in the Halig tree. But there is, of course, a third butterfly, right? There's the smoldering butterfly. It's said to be an eternally burning butterfly that serves as kindling. Now bear with me, but it's my theory that this butterfly is a reference to Melina, who the Blade of Calling calls the kindling maiden and the one who walks alongside flame. This might suggest that Melina is a sibling to Millennia and Miquella. Again, that's just a theory, but what I really want to talk about here is that, at the very least, Melina is almost certainly the daughter of Marika. We learned this a long time ago from looking at her name in the game's files, and we can further infer it from her dialogue, as she has a few lines that refer to mothers and one that says that she was born inside the Erd tree. So, her being the daughter of Marika is also just a theory, but this one is much more concrete than the butterfly one. Although the reason I like the butterfly theory is that it gives us a hint as to who Melina's parents might have been. Her parents would have been Radagon and Marika, which is to say Marika herself alone, I guess, because Radagon is Marika. Honestly, Melina as a character has only become more mysterious since the game was released, and I'm really only scratching the surface with this theory. But speaking of times before Elden Ring was released, back then, a long time ago, I commissioned this piece from a renowned artist named Marco, and now I'm so excited to reveal it for the first time. This storybook scene is heavily inspired by the early looks we had at Elden Ring, with a red-haired protagonist, spirit companions, a mount that looks like Yakul and a bit like Torrent, and a few other hidden details in the piece.
I was going to say, it is very
and all of my other prints are now available over at Spring, where you can actually buy them fully framed and ready to hang. They actually ship with a beautiful frame. The frame itself
J-Spot
is a
has
nice
never
black
known
satin
defeat.
finish, and you can even opt for a...
Okay, so let's jump in, because I know we're running a little late here, but let's jump into the trailers. I believe this is the first one, which was just the gameplay, and the second one goes a little bit more into story.
Okay. Cool. Gonna finally find out who Melina is, I guess, thanks to this trailer.
Peggy 16.
Yeah, hopefully.
Who is Peggy? They always say that in these trailers.
Are you joking, or are you being a goober, or do you actually not know?
Pure.
I have no idea what that stands for. I just assume it's the lady that's in charge of rating things.
No, it's like a European ESRB, basically, but I forget what it stands for.
Love to shrive clean.
Well, this is America.
Oh, hold on. Because I actually want to put the closed captions on.
Oh, sure. That'd be helpful.
Peggy 16.
It's not working.
Pure and radiant, he wields love to shrive clean the hearts of men.
And Mikola that they're talking about.
Hey, we just learned about this guy.
Nothing more terrifying.
He's probably fine. From whose software?
In that forsaken place, blood must spill. Blood of your fellows. They are true faithful.
They were never saints. They just happened to be on the losing side of a war.
I hate it.
Yes. Oh, hey, it's that guy. Or something very similar, at least.
Yeah. Fucking guy underneath there.
Yeah.
Mother, wouldst thou truly lordship sanction in one so bereft of light?
So Nicola's gonna be maybe the big bad of the DLC.
Yeah.
I presume you, too, are keen to know just what kind Mikola is doing here.
Those stripped of the grace of gold shall all meet death in the embrace of Mesmer's flame.
Mesmer.
Come now. Touch the withered arm and travel to the realm of shadow. I will not be far behind. May we meet again.
So that's how you enter the DLC. Gosh,
Was
you have to
that...
get all the way to Moog to get the... That's crazy.
Yeah. Technically, we have access to Moog right now, I think.
Yeah,
We don't start a new game plus.
I didn't... Yeah, I can't, so...
No, even if it didn't break,
me.
you would still be in the same place we are right now. Like once the credit scroll goes by, you respawn in the round table.
Okay.
Their last words here. Oh? Guessing that's Mikola, based on the hair.
Right.
It looked like the
Erd Tree. Did you remember to pre-order in time?
I did. Not this fancy thing, but I did get it on Steam.
Like, what's even part
the
of the
Impaler? The pre-order for the game? It's just a gesture, it looks like. And the soundtrack, is that what this is? Oh, no, I see. It's the Shadow of the Erd Tree edition or this. So yeah, the pre-order bonus is just a
I mean, who would want the soundtrack anyway?
Yeah, especially when you can just like listen to it online, or I have YouTube Music and I love it. So okay, let's look at the story trailer. Even though that surprisingly that dropped a pretty good amount of like story beats.
Gave a lot of context for what's going to probably be out.
Yeah,
very cool.
There's a theory that Mesmer might be Melania and Michaela's third sibling. Remember the smoldering butterfly that Vati mentioned? That butterfly perfectly represents Mesmer's flame.
But Melina.
Interesting.
Melina cooler than Mesmar. Guy's got mess right in his name.
What a mess. Okay, let's check this out and then we'll wrap it up.
I do like Mars bars though. Anyway. M for Mesmar. I gotcha.
Mikula the Kind spoke of the beginning. The seduction and the betrayal.
Do you want captions again or no?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, let me get that up. Sorry, I got really enthralled by that really nasty scene that just happened there. I was trying to figure out what was going on. Like, what is getting pulled out of what?
Out of a bag. It's just a bag.
Is it just a bag? Okay.
Yeah, it's just a normal bag. Don't think about it too hard.
Okay.
Normal bag. Yep, safe for streaming.
Mikula the Kind spoke of the beginning.
I think it actually is though.
The seduction and the betrayal.
No, that almost looked like pulling something out of a cocoon.
No,
An affair from which gold arose. And so too was Shadow born. What followed was a war unseen.
Those are cool looking.
One that could never be put to song. A purge without grace or honor. The tyranny of Mesmer's flame. And so kindly Mikula would abandon everything. His golden flesh, his blinding strength, even his fate. But we are not deterred. We choose to follow. Will you walk with us?
Whose voice is that?
That's what I was trying to figure out before. It sounds like Ronnie, but I'm not 100% sure.
I thought it sounded like Melina, but I could be wrong.
And to be fair, I haven't heard Melina's voice in a while outside of the video we just watched.
Right.
So one thing I do find interesting is it's very Rykard theme for Mesmer. Like the snakes and the fire, and when you get when he pulls the sword out of his mouth, it has all like the red hands that he was doing when he was doing some of his moves into the ground. The little fire in his hand looks like the Briar moves. Do you remember those? There was the Briar Knights that had like the swords that spun and everything, and they had the big move, or what was it? It was like a big entwining move that you also took damage from.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and to be fair, we probably did not actually kill Rykard. So
yeah.
I mean, considering he became one with what something called the Immortal Serpent.
Yeah.
And even like Crazy Lady that was like eating its head afterwards, like it's like, no, he's not dead, he's just sleeping.
If you look at one of his face close-ups, he has the yellow eyes of a dragon. Yeah, I did notice that before. But actually, that's interesting. Because that would be more related to Godwyn, wouldn't it?
Godwyn,
the dragon.
He's another one of the more mysterious figures. So
yeah.
Like Godwyn and Mikkel are the ones we kind of get the least context with within the main game.
Because there seems to be like a lot of rotations of, or a lot of, not rotations, but like conglomeration of themes here. So I'm wondering if like, excuse me, like Destined Death or whatever happened to Godwyn has some sort of play in here too. Like basically everything is kind of, yeah, I don't know, because like of course we have the butterflies of Mikola as he's falling through the like shadow, I guess, into the shadow realm here.
Right.
So it's almost like it's a dream, I would guess. That's interesting. Huh. Okay. Cool. Things to think about.
Mysterious.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, that was our reactions to those. That was a lot of fun. I had seen most of that first video we watched, but the second and the trailers were completely new to me. So, yeah, that was really cool. Grayson, any last thoughts? What's going on tomorrow for you?
Tomorrow is Sunday. Playing Final Fantasy 14.
Okay, cool. Where you're heading up Mount Gold at this point?
So I need to go talk to the Exarch before he dies quietly behind that rock when the stream crashed last time.
Okay.
So I assume he's exiting the game forever. You never have to deal with him again.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think there's like an event going on, right? There's like a Dragon Quest thing going on.
There's a Dragon Quest thing going on. Yeah, I did it so long ago that I completely forgot. But yes, there's a Dragon Quest thing. It should be fairly short. But yeah.
I'll see if I can stretch that out to 4 hours because I like living with the mystery of what's going on with the Exarch.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah. Nothing like Hooded Alpha No. I mean...
Yeah, Alphino is my second favorite. You know this. So tomorrow the stream will be starting at 6 p.m. MST, 8 p.m. EST. And then, you can figure it out that's Mountain Standard Time, 6 p.m.
Yeah.
So you can kind of figure that out from wherever you are. And we usually will stream about 4... Well, actually, I guess we start at 6:30 p.m. MST, sorry. And we usually stream for like 3.5-ish hours. So let's kind of get as far as we can with more 14 story.
Cool. As far as next Saturday, I guess it's kind of to be announced kind of thing. I guess we have to do a little bit more.
There's definitely... We'll have to probably discuss some options. I know there's been a few things suggested.
You wanted to do some Destiny, didn't you, with the community?
I was curious about trying it, seeing as the newest thing just barely came out, and I apparently I have access to the whole game now.
Okay, cool. Cool. Might be, I may not join for that one, but, like, it might be something to do with everyone that plays, at least.
Yeah. Right. And I don't know, like, how much multiplayer it is.
It's, I think, 4 team squads, I think, or 4 people squads.
Okay.
So, they're a party size of Final Fantasy size kind of thing.
It's Warframe-esque.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cool. And yeah, we'll keep you guys updated on what our further Saturday plans are. I'm probably going to be streaming on Monday. I'm not entirely sure what.
Ooh.
Maybe we'll jump back into another Crab's Treasure or do something else. Well, yeah, Minesweeper. Do that for 3 hours.
Speed run it. Be cool.
Yeah. Tuesday, Gray has his. Are you doing the podcast or just another side stream on Tuesday?
I'll need to
double check.
I gotta message Zyga to find out and see what the goings on are.
That's good.
So I think Zyga is back in town, so he might be available to do it. But
okay, cool. Wednesday is our anime night.
It's true.
We are on the 3rd episode now of Free Run. It's been such a feel-good show. I've been enjoying it quite a bit. Gray is being Gray with his grayness.
He's just got a lot of elf in it, you know.
You are. Why is it that it has to be long ear pointing straight up? If it's any other direction, you have an issue.
It just looks wrong. Like,
but ears.
You ever look at pointy? Like, what if you poked yourself on the ear? Like, it's dangerous. It's
How
risky.
are you gonna poke yourself with your ear?
But it's so sharp. Get like an ear cut, you know. Like you like to scratch like your head, and you actually like slice your thumb on your ear.
Thursday is more solo streaming for me. Friday, we're probably jumping back into Liza P. All right, guys, we're gonna head out. Thanks for joining. I'm gonna get out of here before Grayson digs more of a hole for himself. So, Grayson, any last things you want to say before I? Yeah, any last words you have to say, Grayson?
I would like to absolve myself of all crimes past, future, and potentially present.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see you tomorrow.
What was I gonna mention something.
Yeah, for anyone wondering, I during the brief break we took earlier, I found out so the little like stuffed animal got like thrown off my bookcase. It's like a good few feet away from the shelf. I don't know how it fell that far. It's a good trick though. That's my update. So
yeah.
Also, hey, loading error. It's Smo. Smo is 5'4" trending. It's loading error.
Excuse me?
Whoa, man, 5'4" Smo.
Whoa. At least 3 more inches to that. At least.
I don't know. Loading error speaks only true. Who would make me read? How? We're ending the stream now.
Yeah, dude, I've been very much stalling you as I was getting that set up. So yeah.
Getting out of here.
Bye, everyone.
So, Tiny Smo's new meta. All right, bye, everybody. Good night.